Hello, I'm Chris Williams from the YouTube channel Read Comics, They're Bad For You, as well as my BitChute channel if you're watching it on BitChute, Comic Freak. Recently, I've heard news that Disney, as well as Apple, are interested in buying the game company Activision Blizzard. Now, this comes as a shock. Well, Disney denies that they're interested in buying it, but they're getting recommendations from certain individuals that they are in a prime position to buy Activision and add it to the Disney family. But Disney has gone on record saying they don't do video games. Every time they've tried it, it's been a disaster. They're more interested in licensing their characters out to different companies so that they can make money that way. And all of this could just be talk, because Disney is a company that is interested in growing. But there are problems. Disney, over the last year, has added both Fox as well as the numerous properties that Fox owns to its catalog of programming, which has put a heavy strain on Disney's financing because they paid far more than they wanted to for the Fox properties, as well as the fact that their theme parks are in a decline, as well as the Star Wars properties are not making as much money as they had hoped, mainly because of their interfering with the properties and trying to Disneyfy everything. In doing so, they've hurt their business, and them looking out to gain even more properties and try to break into the gaming industry, which is expected to make, I think, $2 billion next year or this year. Well, it sounds like a good choice, but it's a bad thing when you're straining your own finances so badly that and as well as everything you're making currently, or rather many of the things you are invested in and making, have failed. Apple, I've heard, is also interested in buying Activision Blizzard and adding it to its own vast company resources and businesses that they operate. And I've heard that they've also been given news that Activision Blizzard is in prime condition to be bought out. But I've also heard that other companies besides Disney and Apple are interested. Mostly I've heard it was Google, as well as a few other companies. Well, it looks like it's a regular Activision stampede. I use this cover just for this joke. I have another one coming up in a few seconds. Now, all these companies trying to lasso Activision into their own corner are probably in for a fight, because I've heard that Activision is going to fight any hostile takeovers that come its way with everything they've got. So they're not interested in partnering up with any company like Google, Disney, or Apple. And I'd say that's good for them. A lot of these companies already have too much power. Disney and Google are particularly, they're monopolies, just outright monopolies. Disney now owns at least 40% of all, Hollywood movies, as I've understood it, 40%. And this is not good. If Activision is not prepared, they could end up falling into a pitfall and overwhelmed by Disney or Google. Or Apple will just come up behind them and take them. Now, these game covers are a good example of what is currently happening. See, Activision, their stock has fallen, or rather had a drastic decrease in value recently, or rather over the last year. They went from 83% to 40%, at nearly a 50% dive in their stock. And that puts them in a vulnerable position for a hostile takeover. So all the predators are starting to circle the prey. As well as the prey is trying to get out of it by grabbing a vine and swinging over them, but he also has to worry about that hole in the ground, as well as scorpions trying to come up and sting him. This is not good for the common customer, mainly because there's a good chance that if, Apple or Disney buy Activision, they will inevitably, kidify the properties, because they will see Activision Blizzard's properties as something to be messed with, so that they more fall in line with the corporate brand of both Disney and Apple. That means making it more family friendly. That means less anything that looks sexy or extreme or anything appealing to a more adult audience. That means games like Call of Duty or even Overwatch could get a drastic overhaul or be left in the dust to rot, as Disney will see it not part of its corporate branding, as well as Apple will also see that as something to be gotten rid of, because they want to appeal to as many people as possible, and anything that even smacks of controversy they will get rid of. But then again, if you think about what Disney is currently doing, how they now allow booze in Disney World, you gotta wonder, why is Disney keeping up with the old, the business strategies of Walt Disney? You know, the guy who wanted a place where people in America could bring their families and find a good, happy time without having to worry about the troubling things that happen in the wider world. But then again, Disney introduced booze into Disney World. Disney really doesn't care. I don't see why they don't just go full throttle forward and just bring in as many extreme things as possible within warrant and still have the kiddified, friendly face they've always had. But then again, they are an awful bunch of leftists, and it wouldn't surprise me if they've forgotten how to actually run the business. I mean, if they keep on doing stuff like this, eventually Disney's going to cave. And Apple considers itself a tech giant and is looking in any way to expand its own resources. But I don't really think it's too bright of them to try and push their way into a business that they might end up regretting. As I've heard, a lot of game companies rise and then fall, but some of the bigger dogs like Activision and a few others have been able to remain relevant, and they've been around since the 80s, so they must be doing something right. So I wouldn't expect Activision to just cave in and sell their business to any of these giants. I figure they'll keep fighting them until their last breath, and hopefully they'll win. Even though Disney has said they don't really do video games because of all the, failures they've had before, I wouldn't expect them to not push their way into it. Even if they are making a bunch of mistakes now, or any mistakes they've made in the past, they might disregard them in hopes of making even more money in the future. And that's the same corporate strategy that a lot of these businesses operate on. But there's a good chance they will fail and Activision Blizzard will remain as it is, and we will continue to enjoy their great games. This is Activision Blizzard. They make their own set of mistakes, and they themselves are corporate dogs who will try and get your money any way they can. But we don't need one business to own everything in the world, so hopefully they win. So we all can hope for a better future and that we don't have to worry about anyone taking anything else away from us. If you like this video, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed. If you're watching my videos but you have not subscribed yet to Read Comics They're Bad For You at YouTube or on BitChute at Comic Freak, please subscribe to me. Hit that bell for notifications. Hit that like button. And leave us some comments down below. Also, keep checking back in future videos for more information on my own upcoming independent comic book, Scumdogs. At least someone is going to keep making things independently, and that'll be me. So come and check out my comic book when it's ready. I'm Chris Williams, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video or review.